Hey, there we go. We're back.
How about that?
It's Virtual Dev Intersection. How's it going there, Richard Campbell?
I'm well, friend. I'm looking at this list of the final sets of sessions here. We've got our wave of the new .NET Core stuff. Because, of course, we're going after .NET Conf. .NET Conf is the end of this month, and then we're going to be, after Ignite, too, right? In the middle of November.
Yes.
So it's interesting to have to think in terms of the future all the time. It's like, what are we talking about by then?
Yeah. When I think about conference planning, and welcome everybody, this is Virtual Dev Intersection. My name is Jeff Fritz, and that's Richard Campbell. You can see our names down there, so you know who we are.
Yeah.
When I think about conference planning, and particularly right when we look at the Dev Intersection conference here, Vegas, November. There are so many things that are happening. You're right, and it's hard to say. Well, here, what are we actually talking about there? Because there's potentially 2 .NET releases between now and then.
Right. Yeah, and well, potentially because 3 is out end of September, and you're expecting 3.1 to be out sometime in November. Should be right around us, I think.
Sometime maybe late November. It's a very short runway, so it's possible that they may slide it a little bit just because, right. I mean, you're talking about 4 or 5 weeks after the release of .NET Core 3.1?
Something like that, yeah. And, well, of 3 and then 3.1. And 3.1 is actually going to be a really important version, right? Because that's the long managed version.
The long-term servicing version, right? Unlike when Microsoft releases .NET Framework versions where you get the 5 and 5 release schedule, you get 5 years of support and then 5 years of paid support after that. There's this long-term servicing concept where you have 3 years of support guaranteed on that version of .NET Core. So 2.1 is the current version that's in long-term support. The 2.2, the version that's currently out, that's our current version that you see from Microsoft, and that means that you only have support until 3 months after the next version. Right.
So you're expected to upgrade. The next version is going to be 3.
Yeah. Right. This is a way for you to get support and still get bleeding edge features as they're coming along.
Right.
So
if you're running on 2.2 right now, logically 3 ships end of September, which means by end of December it goes out of support.
Yes, it does.
Or you could have stayed on 2.1 and then you have 3 years of support, and then once 3.1 comes out, that's the next 3-year supported version, and that should be sometime in November of 2019, which means out to 2022. I was looking at the titles and seeing all of these like ASP.NET in 2020, thinking, oh my goodness, we're thinking that far to the future. Oh wait. That's 2 months from.
That's next, right?
Yes, next. We're at 2020. We're looking at the eye.
Right, and when you think about what program managers are doing, particularly folks that have that vision across what's happening, not just in .NET but across Visual Studio and looking further ahead, doing that long-term planning, they've got to be thinking about what's coming in 2020, and that leads into what was announced at Build. .NET 5.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting to see almost not a lot of noise about .NET 5. Like you kind of drop this bomb in May where it's like, by the way, and can we go so far as to say it's going to be one .NET? I mean, that seems to be where we're headed.
I love the idea, the concept behind one .NET, right? And this is a problem that I think you see other environments, other programming languages have, where there's different runtimes, different behaviors, depending on where you're going to, different language features. But to bring everything together, have one base class library, one runtime that runs everywhere, that's a tremendous thing. That's C level of C programming language level capabilities and access that you'll have.
Just to know your code's going to work based on what libraries you depend on, right? I mean, I think one of the things that Core's done a good job of is separating the UI stuff from the sort of base level code.
Sure.
So that we're able to stratify that, and you can expect that if it's not UI related, it's going to run across all the platforms. It should just work everywhere.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, you do have other user interface capabilities. right? Depending on if you're on an iPhone or you're on a watch or if you're building for a web browser. But Blazor makes that really interesting, doesn't it?
Well, I wasn't even going to say it, but you're hinting at it now, which is you've got a new Blazor talk.
I do have a new Blazor talk that I'm working on. I'm writing content towards it right now. Blazor and component-driven development for the web forms developer.
Interesting.
And right, this is the challenge that we all have: is how do we level up our skills from last year's or last decade's technology to current technology?
I seem to recall sometime in your not immediate past, not too far immediate past, you were the PM of web forms.
Guilty as charged.
I mean, obviously, you know a lot about web forms. You've literally worked on the product. You didn't invent it or anything. That's Mr. Guthrie.
Yes.
Decades ago, but you have been care and feeding the latest versions.
Richard, you know what? You know, they do say something. They say
people know me.
People do know me.
Yeah, they've heard of you. They know something.
So,
it's interesting to make a positive alignment between web forms and server-side Blazor. Because generally, web forms is mocked. I think that's why all these people, meaning virtually everybody, sort of look away when you talk about web forms, because we've all got it. Right?
It's
one of those inevitable truths.
I want to make sure that folks know that, right? It wasn't. It used to be called just ASP.NET, right? And then we put that web forms moniker in front of it when MVC became a thing. But right, that framework that was very page oriented. You had postback. You had view state, session state that were these giant memory hogs that you had to manage, and it was a magnificent eventing model that you
in my mind, was invented to let WinForms developer move to web without a giant leap.
Yeah,
and it came at some price.
It did, but conceptually, it was compatible.
Yeah,
right. You had the same concepts of page load, button click, events that you would listen for and respond to, and we now have those same capabilities with server-side Blazor, and you can still build components, still listen for events, and respond appropriately.
And I find it fascinating that the ecosystem that once and still does surround web forms is now surrounding Blazor.
It is. Oh my gosh, yes.
The Telerix and the Dev Expresses and the component ones, like all those folks are showing up going, we can help here.
Syncfusion, Radzen has started up. Really, really interesting groups that are helping to contribute and grow that community. There's something to be said for these things are out there, and folks are going to make open source components, but if you want something that's professional with support, you got to go to a vendor. You got to pay for that.
Yeah, and you're probably paying for it anyway. I mean, that's what's interesting, right? It's just sort of this reality of we've been buying when I've worked with CTO, CIO types, and we're sort of architecting the cost of a developer or what you build out the team. They all have an MSDN subscription, right? Which their studio stuff and so forth, and they all have a control suite of some kind.
Sure.
And every one of the control suite vendors, and they're all roughly the same price, has a sort of comprehensive suite of which most organizations are using one small piece of, right? We use the web forms bits, or we even use the WinForms bits, or we've got, heaven forbid, the Silverlight bits, or everybody's got all these controls, and even HTML5 stuff. But it is interesting to have a new set of controls appearing for this new technology, and I hope some folks are at least looking at it and going, well, I already have that, right? I'm already paying for that control suite. I should look at these new controls and extend my capabilities.
Sure. It makes perfect sense. You're already comfortable with it.
Yeah, but you're not really going to... But going back to your session, are you actually talking about migrating web forms apps to Blazor?
No. But bringing some of those concepts and strategies to help you get there better, right? Let's do those refactorings that we can to move business logic out of our web user interface. Move that somewhere else so it can be reused, and you don't lose the value that you built up over years of having an application running. Move that somewhere so you can reuse it, whether it's in Blazor or it's in other user interface frameworks for years to come.
And I've talked to a lot of DEVintersection attendees over the years, and people who build real software day in, day out, they're pretty conservative.
Yes.
you are talking about internal software, especially when we talk about web form stuff, that they've depended on for a decade or more. And there's just not a lot of money, time, or energy for rewrites until you really need a feature, something special in some respect.
Absolutely.
They're just more concerned about keeping stuff alive and healthy, right? They often are at our show saying, like, just tell me the technology I'm using isn't quote unquote dead. And I'm like, yeah, tell me what you mean when you say dead.
Well, all right. So we've got a great chat room here. It's good to see everybody that's out there watching. Let's ask the folks in the chat room. Hey, chat room, if you're managing a project right now as your full-time job, how long has that software application or system been around and running at your organization? Can we get some time frames and just a number of years maybe? Or if it's been less than a year, just say less than a year. Right? Yeah. Because I think you're right, Richard. A lot of folks are managing projects that have been around for a long time.
Well, they probably didn't start them either. Like, they've inherited them and they've gotten to know them now. But everybody has that edge of, I want to rewrite something, but it's so rare. It's just a very unusual thing to get that opportunity.
It is. And look at the time.
Some of these numbers are big, dude.
Oh my gosh, coding with Loose, 15 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That piece of software is a teenager.
So I used to tell folks, and I very much believe this, if you've paid off your car, it might be time to consider a rewrite.
Yeah.
If you bought a car at the beginning of your project and you bought because, hey, we shipped, I'm going to go buy a new car, congratulations. If you paid it off, it's time to consider a rewrite.
Yeah, Coded with Beard still got ASP Classic running in. Wow. I still bump into the occasional site, .asp, and you're like, oh, I get chills, man. That's 20-plus-year-old tech. Like, it's a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Some Silverlight for Hugo. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
10 years. Yeah. Look at this. 4 years, 5 years. So it's interesting. There are a lot of folks here that have those really long-living projects, and that's actually a testament to the technology that things were built with, right, in 2010, 2005.
Yeah. Well, and there's Mark talking about. He's talking about CodeRush. He is a Rush guy, and I mean, when I first encountered CodeRush, he was running in Delphi.
Yeah.
He did a major rewrite. He migrated to .NET. So, it does happen. And I think that's the challenge when you're a developer and you're looking at a piece of software is the powers that be, the folks who sign your check, you've got to give them a good reason.
For sure.
It's got to be a capability they're asking for. I think, you get moments like we want to get on mobile or we want to get on the tablets. Or we need to be externally accessible or it has to work well across a WAN. There's a lot of forgiveness for relatively inefficient web forms app when they're living inside of a local network, right?
Yes, there is.
5 milliseconds and gigabit Ethernet you can build some pretty nasty big pages and it doesn't hurt anybody. Then one day you opened it up through the VPN. Everybody's like, "Whoa, what happened here?" It's like, welcome to the internet.
Yeah.
Bandwidth matters. Faster
networks, faster machines, speed in computing makes everything better.
Yeah, well, the way I've always described it as a guy who did a lot of performance tuning is performance is like air. Nobody cares about it until you don't have it, right? Like if I suck the air out of this room, suddenly air would really motivate you. Yeah. But if it's there, you don't even think about it at all. And so, the app worked fine in the internal network. Nobody thought about it at all. Then we stuck it out over the internet, and suddenly performance matters.
Even if you went to the managers, you went to the CTO, and you said, "Look, we need performance. We need to work on performance," and you really get angry with them. And
do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Yes.
They're not going to believe you until they actually have a problem.
Empirical, and I've always been the advocate of don't performance tune until you have benchmarks that show that you need to. Right.
Sure.
You can put a lot of cycles into it, and you don't know what to work on. Right. You don't know what needs to be fast or slow. Now, I'm pretty sure your megabyte view state, you can work on that. But that's
There are some code smells that you're going to see that, let's address this.
Controls in a repeating column. Okay, yeah, no, that's once we're 50, 60 controls, each of their own view state. I'm pretty sure that's going to be an issue. Doesn't matter where you go.
Absolutely.
But I'm just driving old pain there. That's what I'm doing.
All right. So I think we're going to bring Mark in here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll get started with that. So I've got the team jersey on. Check this out, right?
This is the coding crew.
Right, huh? This is the live coders. Check this out. Look at that. It's backwards because I've got it mirrored here, but with the little logo. Look at that. Oh my gosh.
It's in backwards though. That's good.
Yeah.
Right? I'm the right way around.
Nice. Very nice. Space program. Oh my gosh.
The younger daughter's boyfriend had that mug made for me for Christmas. Knowing I like Kerbal.
Yeah. That's
he got a NASA logo. He took the NASA out of it. He laid the Kerbal in. He had a mug made. I'm like, all right, you can stay.
That's how you appease the father of your girlfriend.
Yes, how you manipulate patriarch effectively.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the back of the nameplate has my channel name on the back.
Nice. Rather than just your name, your channel name.
Right. C# Fritz, and I'm number 1 because.
And the one, okay.
And the one. Somebody was saying that I should do like a hockey jersey and put a Captain C on it.
That's clever. Well, you could. I mean, that looks like sort of like a hockey jersey kind of material, right?
It is a little bit.
X shirt.
Yeah.
So just put C on. You're the captain.
That's right.
And then you have a couple of A's as well, right?
Oh yes.
You're all. You know who your opponents are.
Oh my gosh, yes. Let's dial up Mr. Miller here and have him join in. He's another one of the live coders.
He is, and a live wire to boot.
Oh man! All right, here we go. I'm going to dial him up, and let's add him to the mix. Where we go here? I want to do from here, and you got to do this the right way, friends. Otherwise, Skype will get very mad at you.
There's the right way. And the not so right way.
And I'm an expert at the not so right way. There we go. I think.
Hey kids.
Hey. All right. Give me 1 second to update the. You got to do the whole Skype configuration thing. There it is. And it's like we've done this before.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time.
Let's see.
The beard's really propping against the green screen.
Oh yeah.
Hugo says, "Don't say live wire around Mark. Likely to blow something up."
Never. Come on,
you know, I was the guy who blew stuff up. I guess I've just turned into the old man now. Why did that happen?
No. There we go. Let's welcome on. Come on. There's our friend Mark Miller.
Hey, I'm right here with you guys.
Look at that.
I love these. Oh no! Now we're gonna do the Brady Bunch thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's Jeff.
Hi.
There's Richard. Hey, Richard.
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey Jeff, how you doing?
It's great to see you, Mark.
It's great to be seen.
Streamers are sitting behind green screens all the time, so you said this green screen look.
That's what we're doing.
We do funny things.
Yeah, maybe I gotta get one too, just to be a cool kid.
I was gonna, stream something exciting behind me, put something beside me out there, but I was thinking, oh, it's a professional show, right?
What?
So continuously falling down a pit.
What'd you do?
Just like
space.
Yeah, just the Sarlacc pit behind me, just in a loop or something like that, continuously. But no, Jeff's like, we'll just take your green screen, and I was actually even thinking about tricking him. Sending an NDI stream over with green in the background so he would be relaxed and calm, and then switch it over to live Shark Week or something like that behind me. But I'm a pro today.
Got from behind, that would be great.
I'm a pro.
The popular local loop right now, it was a diver who surfaced, and as he surfaced, a harbor seal surfaced directly in front of him, looked him in the eye, and then popped down. We call it the seal boop. And they perfect gift. So it's just repeatedly seal boop, seal boop, seal boop.
Oh my gosh.
Boop. So that should be behind you. You're being booped by a seal.
Something.
Hugo's trying to launch some drones in the channel here. Look at this.
Oh yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
We're
They
not
are.
on that channel.
Jetsam, Copperbeardy, Ocular Malice, Geniscu Sevens out there. Hey everybody,
Oh yeah.
welcome. Ocular Malice, one of my mortal enemies.
Really?
Yeah, Bill Simser. I don't know. I like him, but he hates me, and I don't know. That's kind of how it is with a lot of my friends. I think it's like I remember I was at a speaker conference and we were dividing up into teams to play paintball. And I'm walking with my team and I'm like, guys, I just want you to know I'm happy to be here. And Ted Newer looks at me and is like, just because you're on our team doesn't mean we're not all going to get you, is what he says. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
I was there for that. Isn't that where we pulled off the Black Hawk Down mission?
I'm not sure. I remember playing paintball with you in another location in Canada. But it wasn't Canada. This was out in the Netherlands or something like that, I think.
Yeah, the Netherlands one where we ended up using a little game theory and just kept reversing our tactics and destroying the other team.
Yeah, I think you were on that other team.
Yeah.
That was destroying our team because all my guys were like trying to take me out.
Well, in the Black Hawk Down mission where you've got the guys in the chopper that have to get out, it's a really tough mission. Like we had to pull the other team away and wedge them out, and then get the folks out of there. It was interesting. It was a good problem.
Yeah.
And it's a part of my personality people generally don't see is given a situation like that, I get a little vicious.
Yeah, no, you are. Well, I think you're always a little vicious, but you've got this nice, cuddly teddy bear exterior, and everybody's like, oh, no worries. There's Richard's safe. But he's like, this guy is like running countries like the CIA runs the United States almost, in his spare time, in his back channel. I know. This guy is like dangerous. Dangerous.
No, I've always said I only play a nice guy on a podcast.
Okay. Yeah. No, he's like you do not want to make Richard like impatient or anything. I'm like always like, is that okay, Richard? You got the information you need? Everything okay? Don't attack me. Look somewhere else.
You wouldn't like Richard if he's angry.
Well, racing.
Yeah.
Racing's bad. We did go-karting and I actually got red flagged. Well, I did spin that guy, but he was in my way.
Yeah. I didn't like getting spinned, and I didn't like getting flipped. I thought it was a friendly game. Richard was on my team on that game, too.
It's illegal in 9 countries.
We got places to go.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
4 laps.
There you go.
They're complimenting your beard, Mark.
Oh.
No, it pops against the light, man. It's something. Yeah. I mean, I'm used to the color. I've seen it for a while, but yeah, no, it's definitely popping right now.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Well, I'm doing a gray beard challenge to boost my streamers up. For TwitchCon, I will take off my beard colors if I get up to 1,000 followers on my channel.
I see. Get away from the color. Because who would do that?
Who would do that?
Old man gray color. I'm doing it. A lot of people want to see what that looks like. If I get to 1,000 followers on twitch.tv/CodeRushed with an ED at the end of it, Code Rush with an ED, I will undye my beard for TwitchCon.
I've lost control of the show. It's
on that channel there, Mark.
Every time. Why don't you know? Everyone invites me on. This is always going to be the case.
Yeah. It's going to be a little unruly.
And at the beginning of every show,
there's just animations flying everywhere. I start feeling like I'm going to have a seizure, and then I switch away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that happens too.
We were going to invite...
Go ahead.
Mark, we were going to invite Fred to be our guest on the channel today, but we thought it'd be better to have somebody who's a little bit more lively join us.
There you go. Fair enough. Fred's one of the regulars on my show. He's like a rogue lizard folk, blue lizard kind of guy. So, yeah. I'm happy to be here. And I told you I was going to be professional, and by golly, I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best.
You're doing well so far, Mark. It's going very well.
You know what they say...
60% of the time, it works every time.
And we're in that 40% right now.
I lost you for a little bit of that, Jeff. I heard only that we're in the, what they say, we're in the 40%.
That's right. 60% of the time, it works every time. And
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not quite there.
We're in the 40%.
We've had you do the Science of Great UI at the show before as sessions.
Yeah.
I think the workshop's new.
Yeah, I think it is. I've done it like once or twice before. And in the past when I've done it, I've always felt it's been a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And I think because I generally come at things fire hose style. I'm like, when I have a 1 hour, I'm sorry?
Most things.
Yeah, that might be true. When I have a 1 hour and whatever 15-minute session or 1 hour session, I like try to pack it with as much material but also not so much speed, but in terms of speed of consumption. So I try to make sure everything's super clear, and then we have the shortest path between the information in my head and to getting it in your head, and it's retained, right?
Kind of the hypocrisy issue here. Like if you're going to talk about the Science of Great UI, your UI better be pretty great.
Oh no, that's true. Yeah, no. When I created my course, it was like I think 2 years. My wife called it the divorce course because everything had to be perfect. I remember spending like a weekend on 6 seconds of the show, getting those 6 seconds right, right, and for what I needed, whatever the piece I needed on it, right, and so yeah, everything has to stand up to scrutiny, right, incredible scrutiny, because you're basically saying, look, here are the guidelines, here are the rules, and hypocrisy takes away from that, right? If I don't follow the rules, then I'm sending a message that the rules aren't important. And so everything has got to be essentially as close to perfect as it can be. But, I've said this before when we've talked about this, Richard, but, with UI, this idea of perfection, there are about 1,000 right ways to do anything correctly from a UI perspective, and an infinite number of ways to mess it up. Okay. And so, I've got to,
by infinity, the chances of you getting it right are actually pretty low.
Yeah, they're still low if you're just randomly doing stuff, right? But if you have a set of guidelines, then your chances are way higher, right? Because then you can go through, and that's what I try to do. But when I've done the workshop in the past, it's always been heavy on me, because doing fire hose for 6 hours or 8 hours straight it's a drain. It's really tough to do, and it's a tough
part of the audience too. Like
yes,
dial that down, people room to breathe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, when you asked me about this, I was like, okay, how am I going to do this so that I'm not stressed and the audience is also equally not stressed? And I realized, over the last 10 years, I've been amassing this collection of essentially screenshots and examples that are not all in the course. And it occurred to me, we're going to pop these up and have discussions about these, right? So we'll go through the rules and the guidelines, and then we're going to pop up pieces and we're going to say, what do we think? And I'm going to open it up to folks who are like, hey, you got a site you want us to look at? Give me a site. Give me an example. Yeah, and we'll do it in front of everyone right there in the session. And I've done this in the past as well. I'm like so interested in good UI and good UI challenges that I don't charge for consulting services. I just, people just show me stuff, and I just dive in and I'm like, let's look at this, right? So that's what we're going to do, and I feel pretty good about it. I was looking through all, some of my pictures, and I was like, oh yeah, this was an elevator in Amsterdam, or this was at a gas station. This was a sign at a gas station, or on the plane, or something along those lines. And I've got all
software, but physical manifestations of UI failures.
Yes, which is so important, right? Because the cool thing about the guidelines don't just apply for software. The guidelines apply for every essential piece of visual and audible communication, and you could even extend it into tactile communication, and you could even extend it not only to humans but to all biological creatures, and you can even extend it to creatures from other planets. The rules are essentially the same, and they're essentially, while they're very centric on humans because of the way we've got visual processing, things like reading and stuff like that, they essentially spawn from the biology of creatures. Is essentially what they do.
If you're going to build a great UI for a mantis shrimp, I think your color selection is going to be a little different.
Yeah, you can. Yes, but the essence of pieces are the essence of the guidelines are still the same. And if mantis shrimp could read, they would likely be reading on a similar limited scale, just like humans do. Humans read on a black and white spectrum, not on the color spectrum. Right. And so based on that, if that were the biological case, then you could come in and say, okay, here's the guideline we're going to use to increase the contrast here. But notice that if I increase the contrast on the black and white spectrum, that the mantis strip, even if they didn't do that, right, didn't read on that black and white spectrum, it'd still be easier for them to read. So which is another one of the guidelines that comes up, in that when you design UI to accommodate folks with impaired sensory abilities or processing abilities, it actually becomes easier for everyone else.
Right.
So there's actually a question here in the chat room from Surly Dev asking, are you planning on doing something like that on stream? It'd be awesome if you did share some of these. Do you have some photos like you're talking about real world things that you can share with us here?
I can. Would I be sharing my screen or just throwing them to you in Skype?
Share the screen on Skype.
Okay, uno momento. Let me do that. Let me bring this up here. Give me a second to do this.
Sure.
I'm gonna actually show you my folder of photos, and we'll just kind of go through and browse. Is what we'll do. All right, let's go into Skype.
Sounds like fun.
And pop it up here. There's
just to get a taste of the kind of thing that you're going to be talking about at the full workshop event.
Yeah.
All right, and
is that somebody's face? You're going to talk about the lack of UI on their face?
Yeah, no, I was actually going to do this. There's let me bring this up because this was, I think, kind of cool here. Give me a second to get it.
That looks like the elevator you were talking about in Amsterdam.
Yeah. Here's what I liked about this. Is an elevator in Amsterdam right here. One of the things I really liked about this is the open door symbol was the first one that I actually thought looked like we're opening those doors. And I know it's focus right here, but that was one of them right there. This is a sign, I don't know, somewhere where I was. It's a sign for a sign company. And at first you might be looking at this and you might not see necessarily anything wrong with this, but after you've seen the course, one thing should totally stick out, and that is the thickness of the border around here. The thickness of the border on this sign is totally calling attention to itself. It is violating the rules of the guidelines, which are borders should be thin or low contrast. And this is the opposite of those two things. Yeah. It is like high contrast and thick, whereas the text is actually lower contrast. Remember, I said we read on the black and white spectrum. So you basically want to take this to grayscale. In fact, here, let's open this up in an image editor. Give me a second. Bring this up here.
Our photos are down the right side of your screen, Mark. So just try and keep things a little bit further to the left so we can see them. You're in good shape.
Okay, got it.
Oh, interesting. So you flip that to grayscale, and right away, like the border's dominating everything.
Yeah, because this is how we're reading, right? And so the border says, "Look at me," and the words inside say essentially, "We're not important."
Yeah.
Right, and so that's kind of what's going on. So, so that's an example.
The border pops, and that makes sense, but you've missed the sale, right? What do I want to buy?
Yeah, the number's good. The phone number's really good.
Yeah,
that's like nice and big and high contrast. So I'm totally down with that. But the border's wrong. The border's wrong.
So
this is
that's John.
So there's a comment here. I want to echo a compliment from Surly Dev in the chat room saying, Surly Dev modified a status report or a Word document that displayed project stats after seeing some of these things that you're talking about around font and the border here. Modified it after watching Mark's talk, got major kudos from managers because it made the report much better, easier for folks to understand.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you're interested in this stuff, I've got like a couple of articles out at this URL I just put in the chat room, sgui.com. And there's also a link out there if you want to, I've got an email course that's free out there that you can go to too, and you can take that and you can get some of these guidelines. Cool things about these guidelines is these guidelines are 100% original thought. It's and I guess there's maybe one or two slightly derivative thoughts that are in there that were somebody else came up with the concept before me, and I came along and said, okay, here's the guideline, here's the rule, here's the way I want to reword that. But it's essentially original thought and conclusions based on a lot of research and studies. So what's cool about it is that you come away, and it's designed for developers so that developers can essentially hold the guidelines in their head and make choices along the way so they don't make mistakes. Here's an example of. I want to show you. I'm going to show you some real stuff here. Hold on. Let me get this up. Is this going to show up on the monitor I'm looking at? It did, but
first slide.
It didn't show me the first slide, not the one I did. I thought I hit Shift F5 on it. Here, let me try one more time. Shift F5. Is that not working? There it is. So this came in an actual email to me, and they're trying to get my money is what they want to do, but it is hard to
read.
It is hard to read. There is data in the chart here that you may not be able to see, or you may be able to see. You may be like, okay, there are words here that are hard to read. There's a paragraph here. Now notice I can read get the facts about virtualization, but it's much harder to read this, even though the contrast is the same. It's white on this light cyan. And one of the guidelines basically says is, look, if you want text to be easy to read and it's really big, then you can have a lower contrast. Right. But if you easy to read and it's small, you must have minimum contrast on it. And there are guidelines like from WCAG WCAG 2.0 guidelines for contrast that are geared to take care of folks with disabilities. However, trust me, you want to follow those guidelines, because if you don't, you're going to create text that's hard to read. And if that text that's hard to read is along the path to getting money, that's an expensive mistake. This is an expensive mistake. Let me jump out of here. I wanted to, if you don't mind, you know what I just realized, Richard? I'm fire right now on the show. And I'm fire hosing on the show.
Yeah. And your mark.
There you are. And I'll let you on that for a moment.
Let's elucidate on this.
And then I'm going to fire hose right into John Summers right here. So this is John Summers. This is a screenshot from his Simple Programmer podcast that he does, right? So John's a smart guy. He's put content out there all the time. And I took a screenshot and I said, John, let me show you what you need to do. This is what I think you need to do. And I talked about a few things. One, now I'm also coming from a background in film and photography as well. So I know some of the guidelines for making good movies and things like that. So one of the things I say to him is, look, you want your eyes at about a third of the way down. So instead of you want to be here, like this. And I said that. The other thing is, look, your logo up in the corner there is, I guess it's like right here. I'm looking at the stream. It's right. Wait, I got to get my finger. It's right there. His logo is super tiny. It's in the upper right corner.
Too small.
Right. And so I'm saying, hey, let's pump that up a bit. And so let's see, what do I have to enable here? What's going on here? Oh yeah, I'm doing this, and there. That's what I'm looking at right there. So I basically sent him essentially a screenshot that says this is what it should look like, not that right there. Okay. And so that's an example of something that's not in the course, but that's something that I sent him to him just personally, because I was thinking, this is going to be a much better way to brand yourself. Right.
Yeah, much easier, clearer to see, much more of John. You can connect with him better as a person because he takes up so much more of the screen, and you can actually read that logo in the corner now.
Yeah. What's going on here? I don't even know what I'm seeing here. Oh, no, this is an actual UI problem. So this is like one of my favorite restaurants in the States. This is Five Guys. And basically they say, hey, you want to skip the line? Order successful. And it gives me this. So I've got all this keyboard up, but no apparent scroll down.
Yeah.
If I remove the keyboard, it's looks like this right here. Save as favorite. That Campbell right there is not Richard Campbell. That's my son, Campbell, who by the way is named after Richard Campbell. But because one of the things I do is I name my kids after future host streams I'm going to be on, and I'm going to have another kid named Fritz here in a little bit. I think that's probably what.
That's me.
Yeah. I don't know. Some of these things are old, and I don't remember what they necessarily are right here. I might have to look at them a little bit to see what is going on here. And some of these are both good examples and bad examples right here.
Well, I mean, when you're looking at that's Amazon. I mean, you think that's the most refined UI on the planet. I mean, millions of people look at that.
Built the UI on Amazon. So it's interesting. So I actually was looking at Amazon a while back, and I was like, what's going on, guys? because the data I want is always low and I have to scroll down to it. And it started occurring to me, well, here's the thing. Websites can often arrive at one of those thousand of right ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Because they have A/B testing and they have a clear criteria for how to pick the winner.
Yeah.
The winner is the one that leads to greater sales. So even though the information I need is low at the bottom, it could be that that's actually leading to more sales. So people are saying, I don't want to scroll down. I'm just going to get it.
It might actually be deliberate. It's a feature that actually increases the effectiveness of the pipeline.
Yeah. Got a couple other things here that I'm just looking at. This is a marked card.
Right.
Uses a UI concept known as noise to hide the fact that it's a marked card. So it's essentially using this. You could almost argue this is a dark design pattern of UI. It's a design pattern of bad UI. I don't want you to read it. Let's give you a lot of text and put an I agree button on there.
Right.
Right. What'd you say?
It's intentionally hard to read.
Right. Exactly.
I thought you were going to say it's the 10 of spades.
Nice. See every end user license agreement ever.
Here's some crazy UI right here. There's a consequence here if I don't follow the steps, by the way. The consequence is fuel spray may cause injury, right? By the way, that consequence is not as big as I would like it to be. It's right here, right? You have to really get in there and read that. You have to read very carefully, so at that point, and then you want to remove slowly and tighten until one click, or the light may turn on, right? So
this got to be on a Subaru.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, Richard, but I've known. One of the things I've learned in 10 plus years of knowing you, 15 I think, is if Richard says something and I have no idea, it's probably true. Just be like, it's true.
Blind faith.
Do not want to.
It's not that blind faith. It's a lot of empirical data. And I've actually encountered this very fuel cap on a Subaru. And when you don't tighten it one click, the engine light turns on.
Yeah, all kinds of.
I borrow somebody's Subaru. I put gas in it because I'm trying to be a good human. And then the engine light's on. I was like, I did this. What did I do? And then I find out you didn't tighten the gas cap enough.
Related story. I borrowed somebody's truck here in Costa Rica. I filled it up with gas, and then it stopped running. And then I looked at the dashboard and it said it was a diesel car. And so you tried
put gasoline in diesel?
What'd you say?
You put gasoline in a diesel?
Yeah, I did.
That's really bad, Mark.
I know. It's my fault. I may have not been paying attention.
Well, hang on. But there's another user interface thing.
Yeah.
How were you able to put the wrong type of fuel in there, right? I thought they had different sizes to the different shape to the gas pump, so that you couldn't put it in the wrong.
Well, they do, but the way they do it is one is bigger than the other. So you cannot put a diesel nozzle into a gasoline car, but you can put a gasoline nozzle into a diesel car.
Yeah. And the word diesel was tiny, and in fairness, after it happened, I was embarrassed, and I was looking at it like from a UI perspective. Could I defend myself that way? And I just ultimately said, no, you screwed up. This is your mistake, and you should have been more careful. But anyway, I almost got my comeuppance that day. Almost. But this causes more problems than just what you're looking at, right? If I want to fill up my car with gas, with fuel, I have to, if I'm doing it for the first time, I have to learn about it. Now, the good thing about this is that the information is really close to this item. If this information was, tucked away, behind the visor of the car, that would be worse, right? It would be because that would be something that I call a proximity violation. It is not close to where it should be. So it's not bad, and we've got some discoverability, right? But we also, in addition to the consequences and the complexity and the slowing down of taking off the cap and putting it back on, right? Because all of these steps are adding to what it takes to maintain and refuel my car, right? In addition to all of that, it's slowing them down the path. It's making the path harder and more requiring more precision, and it's got consequences. Compare that, by the way, with this one right here, which is just you just put the fuel in and you pump and then you take it out and you go, right? And in fact, they tell you, hey, this is such a different UI. They have to put the words "no cap" on here.
Right. Don't for a cap. There's no cap.
Yeah, trust us, it'll work. It's all going to work.
It's going to be fun.
But I like that they also put, right, the E0 to E15 indicator there. Hey, don't use any of the bio mix here.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
That's ethanol ratios.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I was just like, okay. What's this? Oh, this one. All these lights are off. Yeah. For a long time in homes.
Yeah.
The way I would do this is I would have lights that actually switch up and down at both locations. So up means up and down means down. Up means on and down means off. So if I flip a switch up that's got 2 light switches in the room, right, and I flip one up, then the light switch on the other side also flips up. So it's always up.
Yeah, that's the most expensive way to solve that problem.
Okay. I got an on-off toggle. You want to do that one?
The other option is Decora toggle switches that don't ever actually change the location. They just have a little light on them whether they're on or off.
And then you have a toggle, right?
Yeah, it's a big paddle switch, right? The Decora switch, and but there is no up or down position. It's always centered.
I see. Okay, cool.
But I mean, you're also reminding me, Richard, of right. I've got a power light on my television. The power light comes on and is red when the television is turned off.
Yeah.
And it turns off when I turn on the television. It's like...
Right. You wouldn't want to have a red light while you're watching TV, but I don't know why you want a red light when you're not watching TV.
Right.
Except to know that it's plugged in. Like, that's clearly an engineer's solution, right? It's to let you know your TV's plugged in.
I could have figured that out by just looking behind the television.
Yeah, well, it's too much work, man.
Now, this one's kind of cool. I think I'm going to say this on this show. Maybe this will get out to somebody in Microsoft who is responsible for the UI for Explorer, right? So the actual window I'm looking at.
Yeah.
If I want to resize this pane right here, I have to move the mouse into essentially what's a 3-pixel wide zone right here.
I think it's 3 pixels, but...
Say that again?
I love that it's 3 pixels wide. We know it's really small, but it's 3 pixels. Okay.
It's 3 pixels wide, which means I've got 1 pixel in for it to change and 2 pixels to coast to a stop.
Right.
If I'm going to nail this, right?
And no visual cue except the change of the mouse.
Right. Exactly. So so the problem is it requires incredible precision to hit. Right. And when things require precision, our cognitive load goes up. And when our cognitive load goes up, our situational awareness diminishes.
Right.
And in the workshop, I'll show a video on this where you'll be able to see this. But there are if you look for videos of bears passing basketballs or something like that, you'll see
classic, right? Where a bear walks through a scene of people passing a ball around.
Yeah.
You miss the bear walking through the scene.
Yeah, you miss crazy stuff when your cognitive load goes up.
Yeah.
And now that I've revealed that, you may not miss the bear this time because you may be like, wait, I'm not going to actually try the experiment. The experiment is count the number of passes, right? But your situational awareness diminishes. And as software developers, we should be caring about our customers, our users' situational awareness and emotional state. And especially the greater the consequences of our software, right? In other words, if our software gets to a point where we are like lives are on the line, right?
Yeah.
Or we're building like this. I've always wanted somebody to come contract out with me. I want them to approach me and say, Mark, we need a self-destruct mechanism for the nuclear power plant. Can you write that for us?
Why would you want to self-destruct the nuclear power plant exactly? But
I've seen a lot of movies, Richard. I know they exist. Okay.
Okay.
So I want to write that software, right? But if lives are on the line, right? I don't want it to be like a big button with a light on it and self-destructs on. I want there to be some steps that you have to go through before self-destruct goes.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a big button you're going to smack and hit.
Do you? Would you like a real-world UI failure nuclear power plant? Scenario. 3 Mile Island was caused by a stuck valve at the top of the pressure containment vessel. So they knew this valve stuck. That sometimes you need to open it, sometimes you need to close it. And they had a button in the control room for opening and closing it, but it didn't have an indicator light to tell you whether the valve was open or closed. So they requested an indicator light, and the management looked at the cost. So actually have an indicator light that indicated whether it was open or closed meant running wires into the containment vessel, which is very expensive. So instead they wired the light to the button. So when you push the button, the light turned on, and when you push the button again, the light turned off. Whether or not the valve was open or closed is a separate issue.
Right. This is a classic programmer mistake that I see in shipping software all the time, where the error message is not actually reporting on the actual error. It's a different error message. Right? By the way, for that light, I think this dialogue came up right here. That's what I'm thinking right there.
That's just
I actually
wrong.
saw this once. I was like,
I understood it as the unexpected addition on there because there are some expected catastrophic failures.
Yeah, this one is so unexpected. There's no other text. I remember I saw this once and I was like, what the heck is that? Where's that? Where's that?
How we got here. I mean, I've written that error message. I don't know how you got here.
I've seen this on the iPhone a few times where they can't figure out whether you're in portrait or landscape mode.
Yes.
Yeah, you've seen that?
Oh my gosh. The Discord app on the iPhone is terrible about that.
Oh, interesting. These are different. I've got these here because we're talking about symbols here, right? And different ways to put symbols on here. This symbol is incorrect right here. If I open this up and we go grayscale, you'll see why it's wrong. Let's come in here and pop it there. See what's happening?
Ooh.
Yeah.
By the way, I've never done this before. I was like, I just knew it from looking at it. I was like, oh, that worked out better than I thought.
I know, because the red really disappeared in grayscale.
Yeah. I can tell by looking at it that it's hard to read, right? So I'm like, whoa. But even also the caution goes away, right?
Yeah.
So caution and the most important part, hey, high noise area, all goes away. So that part is wrong about this sign, this particular sign right here.
Right.
This one right here has just got a ton of complexity on it. Right, and one of the things that we talk about is cognitive load, right? How hard is your brain working to parse an image? With all of these sharp angles right here, and with all of them, our brains are working harder. Then we might be able to find a simpler way to do that as well. I don't know what else. Oh, that's not. Oh, this is my redesign of the Voyager. You might like this, Richard.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Do I have anything? Did I actually do anything in here or not? I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, hold on. This may be unfinished work. I'm going to undo all my stuff on it. And what did I do? Okay, so here's the original. Wait, is that the original? Well, let's just see. I don't know. Oh, yeah. So what I did here. No, wait, is that right or not? Let me keep going. Oh, yeah. So this is key. See this little triangle popping up like right here and here? Let me zoom in on these two. So see right here, this triangle and this triangle right here?
Right.
I added this to their original design. So basically what they've done is they are to communicate.
To play the record.
Yeah, these are numbers coming around the outside edge here in binary. The problem is, they've got a couple problems here. One is that their number 1 and their number 0 are essentially the same symbol, just rotated 90 degrees. That's problem number 1, right? So we've got some ambiguity in terms of what's a 1 and what's a 0. Problem number 2 is they have no start and end to the number, right? So there's no way to tell if I'm reading left to right or right to left, or beginning to end or end to beginning, right? And so I was like, well, step 1, let's put a triangle in here like this. So we at least mark the beginning of every one of these. Is what I was thinking. Then step 2 is here. You can see I'm doing it right down here. Let's zoom in down here. Right down here, step 2 is let's change the shape of these. Let's go from 1s and 0s. Let's make them distinct shapes. What do I do for 3? What's going on over here? I don't know what 3 is. Let's see what it is. Anything? Can I see it? Oh, I just did the same thing up here. So I was working on this, didn't actually. Oh, there it is right there. It's like that. So that's what I'm looking at. So change the numbering system like this. So it looks like that, a little bit different and distinct. So in fact, a lot of my changes that I make, I keep with the original spirit of the original design. So in other words, we're not going to radically invent a whole new number system. All right, well, you want dashes for your numbers? Fine. But let's change it just enough to make it distinct and easier to read and reduce ambiguity, that sort of thing. So I think I'm going to go more into this and talk about this in on the workshop, Richard. I've got like a whole speaking to other languages. I mean, speaking to other aliens, how to do it guidelines section in the course. So where I talk about how to do this in more detail. I talk about what's going on, what they got wrong, which is super interesting, right? I totally want to be in the room with Carl Sagan, back in the 70s when they're coming up with this. Right.
Yeah, and I wonder if the lines are there because they're more reflective of what's actually on the record. Although, I mean, what the dashes around the perimeter of the record is a way of expressing the rotational speed of the record.
Yeah, I'm not sure of what that is there. That might be the actual number, what it represents.
Yeah, showing there in binary is how fast the record should be rotating to be heard correctly.
Yeah, the one thing I really did like, though, that they etched it in, right? Yeah. Because the presumption that they'll be able to see in some segment of the electromagnetic spectrum is okay, maybe, but CR
some realm of the spectrum, but may not be the same realm as ours.
Yeah, it may not be the same realm exactly, and it could be that they don't see. It could be that they just have an awareness of
tactile system.
A tactile system or other, like a radar system, right? So etching it is good, right? I do like that they etched that in there.
Yeah, and we use gold because of its persistence. It's interesting to think about what long duration exposure to cosmic rays is going to do to it, but gold is pretty resilient to all of those things. But
yeah.
It's 40 years old and it's out past the heliopause now. It'd be tricky to go back and check it, but I'd be curious to see how it's doing.
Yeah. Restroom signs, I use these where we talk about symbolism, right? That sort of thing. Those are kind of fun. There's some funny examples of that.
And wearing a cape, right?
Wait, say that again? Wearing a cape?
The restroom sign, isn't that a man and a man wearing a cape?
Oh, right. Exactly. Yeah. This one, I like this one a lot. This one is just really fun what's going on here.
Use diversion.
Speaking of diversion, right? I'm not sure which way to go, to be honest, at this point.
Somebody's drawn on this.
Yeah. Someone took an arrow pointing left and made it, let's make it point right instead. What do we got here? Oh, yeah. I go into a lot of detail on this design right here in the course as well. I talk about, like, look, this is in. One of the things I'll also do is I'll use real examples from real companies, and I'll often quantify. Like this, for example, was in, I think, something like like 250,000 cars in the United States and other countries, this UI. And I talked about what's good and what's right and what's wrong. How do we fix it? And what are all the steps, and how do we go through and fix this?
Right.
And I also talk about
change.
What'd you say?
Not just a color change.
Yeah, not just a color change, right? What's violating the rules, right? As we go through this, what's cool about the guidelines, right? If you go to the course, or if you watch the Science of Great UI course, the cool thing is that once you learn the guidelines, the steps, the cost of doing it the right way is no more than the cost of doing it the wrong way. In fact, it's actually way cheaper because you don't have to come back and fix it later, right? And you have greater success because whatever your goals are, whether you want people to sign up for a website or buy something on the website, or just use your UI with lower cognitive load, right? Whatever those goals are, you have a greater chance of those being achieved with no additional cost, or virtually no additional cost. Right? It doesn't cost any more to design this the right way than it does to design it the wrong way. And so that's like the total payoff from the course, right? It's just like, okay, once I got it, right? I think Surlydev was talking about this, right? Where just a few changes, it costs the same amount to pick either a different color or to decide, well, wait, maybe do I want to emphasize my borders so much? What's the most important thing? Do I want to make that easily available? That sort of thing. So.
Yeah. Do you have strong opinions on fonts there, Mark? Do you like Comic Sans?
Yeah, I don't mind Comic Sans. Comic Sans is okay. I'm okay with that. I like MT Rounded Arial. I like that. That's not bad.
Do you tend towards a sans serif font for most purposes?
Yes, for everything. Absolutely. I do that. I will only go with like a scripted or a serif font if there's a style theme I'm trying to go after.
Right.
But here's the thing you have to realize, right? Even though it looks like we can show things in different fonts, right, and we can all read them, we are working harder to read and recognize words in fonts and scripts that we don't see or not familiar with frequently.
Right. So
Right,
if
so like,
you have more
go ahead.
exposure to it, it becomes less cognitive load. But if you don't have
Yes.
to it, it's more.
Right. And so like, there's, I think, a font out there called Fiesta. And I remember seeing, a lot of words in Fiesta once. And Fiesta's got like big, round, circle dots all over the place. And once you start realizing how we read, and this is also something I talk about in the course, right? The mechanics of how we recognize symbols, right? You realize that, okay, making it harder to recognize the symbols is going to result in a higher cognitive load, which Mark says no. Mark says no.
Right.
The science of great design, it can be summed up in essentially two sentences. Or one sentence with an and in the middle of it. Minimizing physical motion and minimizing thought.
Right.
That's the science of great design. And so that's what we want to do. We want to minimize that cognitive load. We want to drop the cognitive load down. So if you've got a font that increases my cognitive load, it should hold its own weight. There should be a reason for that. So if if it's your store name, okay, maybe, but make sure you've got high contrast there, and don't do anything else in that font.
Yeah.
Right. Something like that. But in general, I like the MT rounded because the rounded edges don't call attention to themselves. I think they generally look pretty good. They're easy to read low at a small size. If I go higher, I might go, if I like for a title, I might use impact or something like that. But again, I'm looking at a simple font because I want to keep the cognitive load down. And also a font that has distinct differences on letters that are otherwise easy to conflate. For example, if you have dyslexia, right? So I want my D's and my G's distinct, and my Q's and my P's distinct, right? I want a font that distinguishes those, and
it just raises cognitive load when it doesn't distinguish them.
Right. And so if you're working with folks who might have dyslexia, there's a font out there called Dyslexie, ends in IE, Dyslexie, and it's a great font because it actually intentionally disambiguates these characters so that even if you're flipping them in your mind or reversing them, right, it's rotating them 180 degrees, they're still visually distinct.
It still makes sense.
Yeah. And the things, talking about dyslexia, one of the other things you want to do is not have long text going left to right. You want to have it short between margins, right? Things done.
Some of our friends that also write code here on Twitch, they have some extensions that they plug in so that they'll get closed captioning appearing on their stream, and they use some of those fonts to make it easier, and using some of those guidelines to make it easier for folks who have a little bit of a challenge to see the closed captioning on stream.
Sure. Yeah, no, I've noticed the closed captioning here that's coming up. Richard showed me some super cool technology a while back that I loved from a standpoint. So most closed captioning, I'm like, okay. And it's kind of like, I find it like the Twitch closed captioning, I don't like it so much. And the reason I don't like it so much is because, well, it's slightly out of sync with the words. Although the stuff I saw today on your show looked like it was in sync a little, it was much tighter. And I was like, oh, that's nice. 2, the words pop up, right? Really hard and fast.
Sure.
And 3, well, at least with this, when I turn the option on with Twitch, there's a hard black border around it, right? So we've got these distracting elements in it, which means if I'm not interested in it, my eyes are drawn towards it, which is I don't want, right? But if my eyes are drawn towards it, I still want high contrast.
Right.
So the change I want to make, the simple UI change I want to make for the Twitch UI closed captioning option is I want to have a softer border around it, and I want the words to fade in quickly, but I don't want them to slam in suddenly.
There's options, actually. If you click into the gear on Twitch, you can configure the font and the position and some other things around the closed captioning.
Let's see what I got.
Because you're absolutely right. Those are the types of things that you do want to be able to control. But I don't.
Nice. You got yeah. That's super cool. Yeah, I like it. So that's cool. And they have the text option where you can change the size of the font, which is super interesting. These colors are not great. In fact, they're really bad in general. right? This is where developers think they're helpful and they're not, almost always, right? Developers say, well, let's go with this RGB color that is 100% red and 0% the others.
Right.
Let's do the same here with the green. Here's the blue, here's the yellow, and the yellow is just the combo of two of those channels, right? So I've got red and green here, and I've got red and blue here, and I've got green and blue here, right, to get these. It's not really helpful. What do we got for background? Same problem with the background, right? So it's like, okay, so this is cool though. I do like that I can make these changes. Then I guess the two pieces that I want to change on here is give me an option for a soft border, a checkbox here that says soft border, and under text I'd want an option that says, fade in the text, fade in instead of bringing it straight up.
What's under the effects tab there?
Oh, let's see what we got.
Right, you have the border there.
I think these are just, you want, so this is so you can have a shadow underneath it. Yeah. So I can come in here and say, there's my shadow here. Let's turn it on. We can kind of see some of these kind of working right here. Closed caption options. Can I move this? I can't move it, unfortunately. Let's try one more time. Hold on. Can I? Okay, but I can see them both at the same time. So that's not bad. So I can come in here and I can say, is this, what is going on here? Is this transparent?
It's translucent. You can see through it.
Yeah, okay. So one of the problems we're missing here is discoverability. If I hover over the item, I don't really have a sense of what it is. And so for folks with desktop machines, they don't have the ability to do that. Yeah, I guess it is translucent a little bit, but it looks like over here, I just have two options. Oh, I love this mistake. Look at this, solid or translucent. Okay, so if I want to change it to solid, I have to do essentially like four things. I have to move my mouse, click on it, right? So I'm focusing on hitting the target, click it. By the way, if it was a radio button, I'd be done. Then I have to read and find solid in the list. Then I have to move my mouse and click on it, and now I'm done. Okay? So I said four things.
And it's two options there. They could have just both been there.
Yeah.
You got plenty of space for it.
We need two options. I was actually expecting, so we're hiding UI, right? I was expecting to see like 75%, 50%, whatever, options like that. But it's really just these two. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. It's provably wrong. We need two radio buttons here or two buttons, some other way so that everything is information in parallel instead of information in serial like this. So information in serial means I can't see the other piece until I click here and now I can see it. And then now it's gone again, right? So yeah, so I would say let's do translucent. So I drop that down a bit. Yeah, that doesn't work. Okay, here's another problem. Background colors that are highly saturated send a message to our brain that the background is important. Even with translucent turned on, it's wrong. It's provably wrong. Can we make a highlight of this and give this to the Twitch developers out there?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this one is, yeah, that's not that great either. I really need the high contrast, translucent. I would like to be able to change that percentage, but okay. Also, look at the border. Oh my gosh, this is wrong. Look at this. See the S right next to the end, the S right next to the edge? That totally interferes with our feature detectors that identify and recognize the letters. Okay? Well, this is also something I talk about. I talk about how close can the border get to the text. This is provably totally wrong. Totally wrong here, guys. You need a bigger border around the edge. Okay? Make this highlight video, Jeff Fritz. That's totally wrong.
We shall
and even look at here. Yeah, okay, you can see the border sticking out a little bit of the, look at that right there with the R. See what I'm talking about here? I'm going to zoom in on that right there. Look at that R sticking outside the border, right? Come on, kids.
I'm just liking all the Richards all the way down.
It's all Richard all the way down.
By the way, yeah, we did something like this. We actually, so Jeff, you might be interested in this. Here, I'll get rid of this screen so it's not crazy like this. On my show, we created a bug reporting tool.
Yes, I saw you working on this.
Yeah, it's super cool. So I can roll back time on the show. And we were testing it. And so as part of testing it, we were clicking the link that rolled back time, and I had it right behind me. And what was happening is we were going back in time, and without doing anything at that point, the version of me behind, it only went back about 30 seconds, 20 seconds. In 20 seconds, that link clicked another behind it. And right? And we're actually experiencing time travel live on the show. We actually were doing that. We were predicting, we were like, I know what's going to happen. I'm in a time loop right now, and I can't get out. But anyway, that was a little bit fun. So yeah, there's like, as you can see, a lot to talk about. There's a lot of things out there. But look, talk about the closed captioning on Twitch. The effort to make that border bigger the first time costs nothing. Yeah. It costs nothing to make that better. It costs nothing to get it right. But not knowing the rules is expensive because you have a poor quality experience.
So it seems to me your rules are clear enough that you can get the stuff right the first time. There's not multiple cycles for revising a UI?
Yeah. Now, this is actually a controversial point. This is a hot take that people who contract professionally don't like to hear.
Right.
Right? Because a contractor naturally wants to sell you their services, which means, and part of the services, the way, I'm sorry, what did you say, Rich?
And as much time as possible.
Sure. If I can bump that up and if I can sell you iterations, right? Boom, that's a nice contract and it's worth my time as a contractor, right? But if I can now, we can substitute that with, hey, let's just teach the dev team the basics of essentially, cognitive science as it applies to software, right? And they take that away. Now your software team can work as if they had like a professional UI guy guiding them, right? And not making those mistakes. And you can get it right one of those thousands of ways the first time. Mm-hmm. I think for the most part that is true. I do know that I've heard feedback from people after seeing the course where they've been like, it has made a difference in the quality of what we're producing. Right. So I think it's true. I don't think it's just me and my autistic mind. I think that it's the way the information is delivered, that it's possible you go away and you retain it. The guidelines make sense. By the way, I've even taught this course to kids.
Mm-hmm. Really?
At CodeMash, I did a great design for kids course. And some of that content made its way into the adult course because, although it looks a little cheesy for me to be talking about all of a sudden superheroes when I'm trying to talk about a point like emphasis and how it should match importance, right? It makes it easier to retain. And so I realized when it was easier to retain this example than my, drier example where I had charts and graphs all over the place, I was like, okay, we're going to bring the kids part into the main show so that people can retain it easier. Because that's also a goal, right? I want you to not only understand, but I want you walking away, getting it, and keeping the information that you get.
Yeah, and it's part of the challenge, right? There is an array of rules here, remembering them all and making them routine so that it's just part of your coding practice. Yeah. Getting borders set when you were setting the borders, not having to go back and do them later.
Yeah.
Shirley Deb says, Richard, turn your head and whisper something to yourself.
Well, that was from the heads all the way down. I was supposed to look into the microphone, whisper to myself beside myself, and then respond to the previous whisper. But I did it all.
So yeah, I'm just like realizing I'm guilty as charged of fire hosing again. I'm like doing the thing. You can tell I'm like I'm passionate about this stuff.
It's great stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting just to think about all of these things are fixable. It just takes some time, and it could have been done right in the first place.
Yeah.
And do you have examples of great UI stuff you're really pleased with? Like your SGUI.com site is lovely.
Oh, thank you. I have got, I try is, I guess, the answer to that question. Let me see. I think I have a folder in here called good, maybe, but I'm not sure. I think actually let's see if I have a good folder in here. Good UI examples. What do I got? Not much. One. I like this, but I like this. Yeah, I got one in here. Hold on. Let me make it bigger. I can't really make it bigger so let's see if I can zoom in here. Let's do this. Let's open this up and we'll just zoom in.
1 second.
So
I'm fixing Mr. Campbell's
I keep jumping.
His box. Yeah, it keeps jumping just a little bit. We're having a slight network issue there, but we'll get this fixed.
Is jumping in size, is that what's happening? Is it the edit transform?
Yeah, that one.
I hate that one.
It's only on this one screen that I put together real quick last time when we had Kathleen with us.
Yeah. It's the workaround is stretch to inner bounds, I think, on that. Edit transform. Yeah.
Yep.
I still have this problem, even if I have that option set, by the way, Jeff.
Oh, yeah?
I still have that. Yeah. So I've got a show that I do on that we're still practicing, haven't gone live yet, on Sunday nights.
Yeah.
And we have essentially 5 people, I think,
that's
with
a lot
cameras.
Of people.
Yeah, and I still see it, even though I've got edit transforms, the stretch to inner bounds set to true. I still see it happening. And I'm just like, okay, I'm pushing the limits of the system, right? With all of these videos going up and down from all these different places.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. There we go.
This is actually a really great example. I actually love this example. So this, I'm booking a flight here. Most flight stuff is not great. It's getting better, but it's not great. I came in here and I looked at this. So these are my trip details. And I was like, okay, so look at this. They've got, they're using high contrast, larger font for the important details.
Most important detail.
Right? They have low contrast icons off to the side. Cool. I like that. Right? If they were high contrast, it would be harder to read the text.
Right.
Right? They also have less important details like the date, a little lower contrast than the main contrast items right here. The main items, time to check in, download your boarding pass. If I want to know the date, I can look at it. But look, this whole section is, by the way, they also use lines to separate. So this is also something we talk about. We talk about using lines as a container kind of, or a fencing idea, right? And so they're separating my different days. So I've got, and they're following proximity guidelines. Things happening on Sunday are close together. Things happening on Wednesday are close together, right? Leave for the airport. They got an icon here. Arrive at the airport, right? They've got icons here as well, right? Oh, important information. They're using saturation, right? To convey important information. This, I saw this and I thought, oh my gosh, they're doing like everything right. They didn't make any mistakes on this page right here. I thought it was really, really well done.
So that saturation color is in higher contrast than the main items?
No, if we go here, let's do it. I think it's about the same. That's what my brain says. I think it's about the same. This contrast to the red is about the same as this right here. It's not as high contrast as this, the text, the plane to London takes off. Let me move it off to the left so you can see that here. Well,
definitely that red pops in there.
Yeah, watch when we take out all the color.
Right.
Yeah, it's about the same. It actually is a little higher contrast.
Yeah.
Is what it looks like. Just a little bit. But it's certainly at a level where I can read it. Right?
Yeah.
So
to prioritize it, like it does draw the eye.
Yeah.
But let me ask you about the date position there. I see times down the left side, but the date is only on the right side.
Oh, I love it.
Right.
Let's move this off to the side. It's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Should the date be on the left side, or should it even span across?
No,
because it's that container.
No. Well, yeah, you could do that too. But I do kind of like the line, this line going all the way through.
Sure.
You know. So, but let's just explore for a second, Jeff, your suggestion, which I love. I love. So we're going to take all of these, and we are going to move all these over here, like this, like that, and we'll get rid of that. And look at it, we've improved it. Yeah, okay.
I think you're right, Jeff. I think that looks better.
Yeah,
right.
Cleaner.
Brilliant. So that is the proximity guideline, where things that are closely related should be close together.
Right.
I'm going to do this for our workshop, so anybody who is watching here that goes to the workshop, you'll get this right ahead of everybody else. I'll say, what could we fix? I thought it was perfect, but Jeff Fritz taught me. He handed me my comeuppance live on the show.
And leveled it up. It really is better. I'm amazed. It is. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you very much. That's me. I am a user
More
interface.
White space on the right, right? Like that. I also like that additional white space on the right.
Yeah, it works. White space is cool too.
Yeah.
Having that border there. Yeah, that's good. I like it. I like it. Yeah, it's a great way to do this, because now I have my tasks on the other side. And in fairness, you could say, well, you know what? I've actually gained a little bit of space. Even though Richard is saying, oops, hold on.
White space. You could reduce that overall space.
And show more on screen at once if you wanted to do that, right? It's take a little more work to do that, but we could do that, right? Where we come in and we say something like this, and we just move it up like this, and now we've got, something like that at least for the top. You can see what's going on, and we've got the information is relatively dense but not hard to read. I would maybe do some alignment here with the times. I would put the times now and move them over so that they are. I would consider putting them here like this. But also, there's something to be said about having them next to the item as well, right?
Yes.
Maybe I will just leave those.
Continuous line.
Say that again, Richard.
So that it reads as a continuous line.
Yes, but also it's close in proximity to the thing you have to do.
Right.
Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I kind of like that. That's an example. And then I think my other good ones that I have, I'm not going to save that for right now. The other good ones I have are in the individual folders, I think. And so let's see if I can find some of these here. This is like a good.
Mark, we had actually walked through a little bit of this exercise looking at the layout of my stream a few months ago.
Oh, yeah.
This feels like something that would be this type of walkthrough and talking about another streamer's user interface, how they present things. That's something that would be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, my main problem is getting the family to sign on with more of me being like all me. And, you know what I mean? They're like, it's not all about you. People don't really like you. Most people hate you, that sort of thing. And
Dad, we need less of you in our lives.
No, they want more of me. They just don't want, they don't want Twitch to have more of me. So I always got to that sort of thing. I was going to try and see if I can come up with another emphasis. Do I have good examples in here? Good. No. Do I have anything that starts with the word good? Nope. It doesn't look like I do. So yeah, I do catch some of these things, but this was the infamous best actress in a leading role.
Yes.
Right. So we have even contrast problems on the envelope. There it is, grayscale right there, right? So you can see what's going on there. So knowing that they had the wrong envelope, couldn't tell, right? This is the footage from the Academy Awards, and you can, from I think a picture at the Academy Awards, zoomed all the way in, right? There's just no way, and that's the actual envelope there. And do I have the other piece here, Oscar? Here we go. So I think this is like, what's the original one right here? I think it's, I think it's that. This is what it originally looked like. Here, I think I can bring this up. Yeah, so this is what it looked like. So
small.
Yeah, so best actress, right? And it's low contrast, right? Yeah. All of the problems of the, it's just got a lot of problems.
You've got a 70-year-old, 80-year-old that's reading this.
Sure. Yeah. So it is. It's heavily reliant on the. The people on the side wings handing out the correct envelope. Right. The wrong envelope, you just can't tell for two reasons. One is the envelope, and the other is. And here's my fix to the envelope. Let's see if I've got this right here. So the back. We put actress in the leading role on the back of the envelope. Mm-hmm. Or wait, that's the back
front.
Oh, here we go. Actress in the leading role right there. And interesting, I got these named incorrectly, but there. So there's the front right there, and there's the back, right? So that's one of the fixes. And then the other fix is something like that, right? Best actress up here. And you could even increase the contrast up there if you wanted to. But right, those are ways to fix that kind of problem here. What's this? Cinnamon and chili powder. Oh yeah, somebody sent this in to me. Wow. This is not the original.
Sizes, the fonts are different.
This is the original right here.
Yeah.
This is the original.
Oh wow.
And then my fix was to do this. To basically say, I haven't fixed the right side yet, but to basically say, okay, make the green thing smaller and your logo smaller. Make the thing that it is bigger. Right? Let's do that and make that in a higher contrast. I've seen this problem. I've had the same problem with, do I have pictures of it in here? I don't see them here.
You know what's curious is that it says ground cinnamon and then the graphic is stick cinnamon.
Yeah, I agree.
Wait, what?
So, the chili powder, that's whole chilies in there.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. No, it's
not.
Chili
powder, one word.
Yeah. Yeah,
I run into this one at hotels all the time.
Yeah, how do you use this, Jeff?
I don't know.
I actually have a movie somewhere in here of me trying to use this, right? Or at least I've set up. Now, just to be clear, it's a movie of my hand trying to use it, and I've set up the camera in it, and I'm fully clothed off screen, so don't worry. You're not gonna, you're not gonna see anything you don't want to see. Good. But it's that kind of a thing, right? Oh, this was awesome too. In a restaurant, here's a step that people were tripping on again and again. So they put that reflective tape and a light right next to it. right? So as you walk up, yeah, and they had all kinds of signage here, by the way, all kinds. This is what it looks like. And you can see the progression over time. They originally had this sign. That wasn't working. Then they added this sign off to the side with these arrows. Then they added the reflective tape and the light, and people finally stopped tripping. Right? Yeah.
That's a lot of bolt-on UI there.
Yeah. This is kind of an interesting thing, too. This is where we lower the contrast of everything to highlight the piece that is up and displayed right here. This is kind of a nice effect. This is not bad right here, like this. So if I open it up, you'll see it without these crazy arrows on top here. I'm not sure why somebody wants to do that to me, but it's this. This is nice, right? So GoGo wants me to give them some money. So they do this, right? It's nice. It's like they've lowered the contrast of everything else. They've highlighted their ad, essentially, or their offer. And now the other thing they've done is look at this, the buttons, right? Made a nice big button here. If I want to take this path, it's easier to click than this. This requires more precision. And innately, I understand as a user, the cognitive load is going to go higher, which means innately, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So if I really don't want to do it, I got to kind of fight that natural urge to click the big, nice, big red button. Right? That's what I want to do. So this is a nice use of contrast to encourage people to take a certain path.
The path you want them to.
Yeah. So I don't know. We're just kind of like throwing stuff out here. Anti-pattern, low contrast looks disabled is what I have written down here on the file name. What's going on with this?
Oh, look, the buttons, the radio buttons there, they all look right. They look disabled.
Oh, let's see. Is it that? I'm looking at this now. It doesn't necessarily look that disabled, that low contrast, but I think it's this area right here. If that's what you're talking about. Yeah. I've got a gray background and I've got low contrast against that gray background. And these things right here also kind of have a sense of looking disabled, the actual images here. That's what I put there. So yeah, that's why that one's in there.
Is that a place where you would have used a combo box?
Oh, no. I'm going to say don't use a combo box unless you got like 7 or more items in general. Right? I think you can do 5 radio buttons, especially, now, if it's something you don't do frequently, then okay. If I'm going to hit that combo box like once, every 2 weeks or something, not a big deal. But if I've got customers hitting that all the time and it's on the path to giving me money, a combo box will kill you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The other thing that popped up to me on this passport one was that the damaged or mutilated looked like it was a title over the blue text.
Oh, you're right.
As part of the radio button, because look how where the damaged is. Like it should be aligned with the yes. Yeah, it should be here. Better. And damaged should be do something here with the D. Make it so it's clear that it's a continuation. Well, lost, stolen, damaged, mutilated. None of those things should be capitalized.
Yeah, or maybe emphasized in another way, like bolded, for example. Right? Yeah. Yeah, so that's a better example than where we were here with this.
Yeah.
So like it's that or
that looks aligned with the note rather than aligned with the radio button.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah, you're right. And alignment's important because from alignment we gather grouping, right? We have grouping assumptions that we make.
Yeah.
So okay, there's that. This other one's called nice contrast and size. Oh, it's here in post your answer. That's what I like down here. Right? So this is like, hey, I've got high contrast for the piece I want, but an option still to discard. I'm a huge fan of this style. The only problem is this is too close. Okay? So while I've got nice contrast and size, what I really want to do is I want this like over here somewhere, like that.
Right.
Still close, but not.
You need room for a finger to be able to touch that.
Yeah. And not. You want to see something that I hate on a website I hate?
Mm-hmm. Please don't show my website. Please don't show my website.
It's not your website. Don't worry. But it's what is it? It's hold on. I got to get into Chrome because it's in my history on Chrome. Give me a second. Here it comes. I kind of want to block it off, but there's no way because their logo's all over it. But maybe they'll see this and fix it. But here we go.
It's not Mixer.com. Okay.
It's not a huge company, but this is it. It's physicaladdress.com. They have 2 buttons: sign up and log in. and no indication of where one ends and where the other is until I hover over it.
Right.
But as I approach this baby, my cognitive load goes so high as I'm approaching it. And I'm like, whoa, which one? Right? And right in this zone, there's all kinds of room for error.
Yeah.
And by the way, on the mobile version of this thing, right, they do the same thing, only in this direction.
Oh,
and
no.
It makes me equally crazy. These should be distinct. They should have a different color behind it. Something along the lines should be used to fix this. And by the way, since signing up leads to money and logins necessarily don't, you could do the same trick where you have a giant, a big sign up button, right, and a small little login link off to the side. You could do that. I'd be okay with that. But this makes me crazy right here.
Yeah, well, clearly those things are prioritized, but they shouldn't be prioritized the same.
Yeah, I think that's true. They shouldn't, and they shouldn't be right next to each other, right? Proximity, violation. We want to give us a little bit of room so we can, come in with low cognitive load, click the button we want, and we're out. But that's what we want to do.
Hugo I think makes an interesting point here. This feels like an anti-pattern, though, for agree-disagree questions.
Sure, I would agree with that. There's also a similar anti-pattern, which is using only color to differentiate, which I'm pretty sure I got pictures of in here. Hold on.
Please stand by.
Please stand by. Color as an indicator. Okay, here we go. So take a look at this. This, either all three options are on or all three are off. And in this, one is on and two are off, or one is off and two are on.
Yeah, no way. No.
Using only color as an indicator. This has been fixed in more recent versions, but this is Google Maps. And at one time, not too long ago, they were making this crazy mistake, and it was costly, right? It's like I'm driving down the road and I don't know if the voice is on or not.
Right.
I don't know if I've got it muted.
Is that muted or not muted?
Yeah. So I click the button and it looks like this, and then and so these are my two options, right? So
what do they mean?
And by the way, when I'm clicking these buttons, there's no audible feedback. There's nothing that says, I'm now here talking to you, Mark. It's nothing. I'm just clicking it. So now I'm like, I take my hands off the steering wheel, I move into the passenger seat, and I start looking at the phone, right? And I'm like, start turning on satellite, but I don't have great coverage, so satellite doesn't come on immediately. And I'm tapping this. So now I'm just frustrated. I roll down the window, I get out on top of the car so I can get better signal, and hit the button, and then I notice my car swerving all over the place.
You're like, who's driving this thing?
It's very costly. It's very costly, kids. Using only color as an indicator, same problem here, right? If I'm colorblind, one shows up high contrast, the other low contrast. It's my guess as anybody else's, how that's going to look like. By the way, here's a way to fix it. You can use borders to fix. Right. By the way, there's like I say, there's 1,000 right ways to do it. You can use some sort of visual distinction. By the way, guess what? Apple's messed it up too. This is iOS 7, right? iOS 7, iOS 8. So they're only using color as an indicator.
Yeah.
To tell you which one. 2 of these are on and 3 are off, or 3 are on and 2 are off, right? But because the difference between gray and black and gray and white are the same, your guess is as good as mine, right? iOS 8, they get a little closer. They start filling things in, and these are dimmer. So now I'm like, I think these are on in the middle, right? iOS 10, they go to color. Okay, so now it's pretty clear which are on and which are off. But using only color as an indicator is tricky to do, and it makes a lot more sense to maybe throw some text in there or something along those lines. And in the show, I've got
Apple iterate like that. I love that you did here's this series of them trying to get this right.
Yeah, well, that's what you see, right? When you see something wrong, so this is what happens generally, Richard. I find something wrong from a large company, and I start talking about it. I start talking about it in the show, and I'm like, and then within about a year, it gets fixed.
Right.
Sometimes it could be because of me. Sometimes it's because there's companies large, and they've got they've got so many customers. They've identified the bottleneck. They've identified the problem, and they've fixed it. But that's generally what happens. And so what you get is if you're saving the screenshots, you actually see folks end up, they are following the rules, right? They end up following the rules. But there are we talk about I'm not going to pronounce this guy's names right. I think it's Jonas Ives, the guy who is lauded as the guru behind the iPhone. Even he's not there anymore, I think, right? Is what you were saying, Richard? Yeah. Even there, right? Even with the more recent iPhone releases that were essentially under his purview, there are mistakes that violate the guidelines in the Science of Great UI. And I have pointed these out. I've been like, one of them is the inconsistent use of color across all of the apps, where red can mean, oh, this is a dangerous thing you're about to do, or red can simply mean it's the date, right? And so, there are, those kinds of things are there. But you also sometimes see, just like on this show, when Jeff said, oh, what if we moved the date over to the side? And I was like, oh, of course, that's it, right? That's brilliant.
So often those self-evident revelations once you've articulated them.
Yes, and in the case of Apple, there was one that I was saying, this is wrong, here's my fix. This is wrong, here's my fix. And they came out with a better fix than mine. Right. Over time. And I was, so, do I think they were watching my show? Probably not. But did I think they saw the problem and figured it out? Yeah, I think they did.
Right.
And they fixed the problem, and their fix was better, arguably better, provably better, for reasons I had not considered at the time, which is how you use it. In other words, the thumb is coming up from the bottom, and they had a way of making it so that because the thumb's coming up from the bottom, the chances of a mistaken hit were dramatically reduced by their new layout. And when I saw it, I was like, and that's incorporated into the talk too, into the workshop, right? I say, here's where they were in this year, here's where they were in this version, here's what my fix was, and look at what they did. They came in here, and here's why theirs is better than my fix, right? So that happens.
It's great progression, actually.
It is. It's really good to see this because it also validates the rules. Right? Yeah. It validates the guidelines, right? I say, here's what was wrong for this reason, and you see folks catching up. People catch up the fastest, by the way, with the A/B testing. On web, if you've got a website and you've got a lot of people hitting it, you can come across good design with A/B testing and not even realize it. You're just like, well, this button, making it bigger, we had more orders, right? It's you can actually quantify the size of the button in a dollar amount. Right.
And then changing colors. We've rotated through colors. We've rotated through location because you've got so much traffic that some of these tests we were running for an hour or two, and the numbers were meaningfully different, 10, 15%.
Yes. And that's money. That's money, or it's people signing up, or it's whatever your metric is. So A/B testing is a way where you can basically, it can hand the UI to you. Right? Yeah. You can say, here's a UI that works, right, for what your criteria is.
Yeah, I've also done A/B tests where the two versions were getting the same amount of traffic. We're like, okay, then you change them and they still get the same amount of traffic. It's like, I'm really struggling with whether or not this look matters.
Yeah, maybe, it's the look doesn't matter. It's not, there's something else going on. Another thing I talk about, which is kind of surprising, but fewer words on the path, on critical paths, right? Each word is about a third of a second to read, right? At average reading speeds in the United States. So and those don't differ much throughout the world, right? In terms of average reading speeds. So every
word counts as cognitive load.
Yeah, it does. So if you can say something, if you can get an editor to reduce the amount of words on the path, right? I recently got a warning dialog came up because I was about to do something. And I think it was Google, and the title for the warning dialog was "Heads Up," and I really liked it.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? I was like, "You're about to do something," right? It got my attention. It was easy to read. It wasn't a sentence, so I was in and I got it. And it was a bigger font, and it was lower contrast. So you can lower the contrast on larger fonts. It's totally the right way to do it, right? Get the eyes in with the size, and then after I've read that, now I'm interested in the text. I can go read the text. It was a well-designed dialogue.
I ran into an issue similar where going the other way, we were building a user interface for folks to be able to communicate with a service that I was building using text messages. The problem was when you signed up for the text messages, the lawyers at our company wanted 300 characters of disclaimer text to go at the end of every text message.
Wow.
Message can only contain 180 characters.
140?
So maybe edit that down to like 130 and, give me 10 characters.
The suggestion that we had was, well, can we just put a link that says you agree to these terms and here's the link?
Right.
No.
Slimmer's got to be there.
Folks need to be able to read and see this every time they get a text message. So, yeah.
Okay. Or we don't do it.
Exactly. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff, Mark.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's important.
I always learn something new about this, and definitely the thinking about the proximity of related data is something that I've picked up here today. How do I make that data a little bit easier for folks to understand?
Yeah.
And I think about, I've done this thing on my stream where I've got the sentiment down at the bottom in the middle of the screen, and it's just in the bottom bar, but I've got a smiley face, a number, and an arrow. And people are like, well, what is that? And I struggle with, well, how do I make that appear better so that you know that it's sentiment, right? Clearly it's a smile or it's a frown. How do I more clearly describe? That's what the chat room is saying. And it's something that I'm trying to figure out. How do I convey that better on stream so people understand it? Or is it just...
I have an idea.
Go ahead, please.
I got an idea for it. It's a cheap way to solve it. But we're talking about a discoverability issue is what we're talking about.
Yep.
Right? And it's a different discoverability issue about an element on screen while you're streaming live.
Yep.
So the natural way that you would solve it is you would put some sort of explaining information next to it. But because it's a stream and on screen, and some people have low bandwidth, every part of your screen is valuable. You don't want to take up any more space on that. So my suggestion is one of the features that OBS has is the ability to put in essentially a bunch of images and chain them together and show them.
Mm-hmm.
You create like one image that has the text you want to explain it with a little arrow pointing to it, right?
Okay.
And then you create 5 or 6 more images, or 7 or 10 or whatever, that are completely transparent. You chain them together and tell OBS to put that right there. Okay. So what'll happen is you tell amount of time that it's going to be there. So every minute or so, or 5 minutes or whatever it is, that'll show up for some short period of time and then go away.
Turn it into a slideshow that it rotates.
Yeah. And then the rotation of the transparent stuff just goes and it doesn't block your stream.
Nice.
So it's a way to do it. And you could even have discoverability in there that encourages you to do something or type something in the chat room to learn more. And what's cool about that is that now your viewers, you've trained your viewers how to tell the chat room what to do, how to convey the information. So the next time somebody in the chat room asks the question, one of your viewers can answer it by typing in the shortcut, and then it gives it to them.
Nice.
And the shortcut could even trigger as well. If you did a layer, like a programmable layer, could trigger as well. There's a number of ways to solve it, but that's like a cheap way to solve the problem.
Oh, very easy way.
Interesting idea.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm excited to see your workshop, and of course, there's also the main body sessions too.
Yep.
Before, and is it 3 of them back to back?
I don't know. I haven't actually looked at the schedule, but that's probably the case. It's actually not bad. I can punch through those. That's 3 hours of a
15-minute break between each one.
Yeah, but the cool thing is also is part of the handouts for this, or not. The takeaways, I should say. It's not a physical handout, but the takeaways is a PDF that's got essentially the condensed version of all the salient points that we covered.
Checklist of the rules.
Right. So you can take that with you. You can go refer to that later to help refresh your memory, that sort of thing. I like this. Ocular Malice is talking about Half-Life 2. Did this best. I agree. Half-Life 2 was excellent in terms of their gaming tutorial. Yeah. I'm going to do that.
Half-Life 2 is a fascinating story because that was one of the first really cinematic games where you could simply look around. You were always in a world, and it was Gabe Newell who talked about one of the biggest problems they had in beta testing was you weren't looking where we wanted you to look.
Yes.
So they go through all these efforts with the other characters like Alex and things to get you to look where they wanted you to look. Like, look at that building. Look over there. Like, it was because you could be looking anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's super cool. I think it was really well done. I actually visited Valve Studios when I was in Bellevue, and I got really disheartened. So I was like a huge Half-Life 2 fan, and I played Half-Life 1 as well, and I was really kind of waiting for Half-Life 3 to come back, and I wasn't.
3 of Half-Life 2 that's never going to ship.
Yeah, and so I was like, I got a tour of the Valve Studios, and when I was there, Valve Studios was almost entirely empty. It was all the developers had the day off, and this is like in their Steam heyday where they were making a ton of money off of Steam, right? And all I'm imagining is all these super wealthy guys not really caring about Half-Life 3 at the beach somewhere.
I'll say it on the stream here, but having known a bunch of those folks, I live in this area too, right? Being up in Vancouver, that the folks that developed Half-Life 2 wrote Dota 2. The Ancients, which is a monthly subscription, massive multiplayer game that brings in somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 billion a year.
Yeah.
And
crazy
it's like,
stupid.
Look, we're never going to move that team off that product.
No.
Right.
We have to keep it evergreen to keep those customers engaged. It makes us so much more money than any version of Half-Life. Like, we're just never going to get those guys back. That is our machine.
Yep. No, I get it. The question was this a new studio? I'm not sure if it was or not. It was in Bellevue, and it was about, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. That's what I remember. Something like that. And I was just like, never going to go back there. Never going to get my Half-Life 3. Oh, well.
Yeah, it's very, very unlikely. I mean, this is a whole separate subject, but so much has been done in game development these days where they're using offshore developers. Like, you look at the credits list for your average contemporary top-tier game, the amount of offshore studio development for artwork especially is stunning. If you've got $50 million to spend developing a game, very little of it's going to be done in North America. A lot of it's going to be done, especially the graphics work, like the most time-consuming, expensive stuff. You use offshore dev for that, offshore art resources. And there are huge studios in China and Vietnam, Indonesia, and India. That's their business. That's what they do, is inexpensively producing assets for games.
Yeah, I bet. Ramantran is saying new Valve Studios in Lincoln Tower are amazing. They're all into VR rooms in there. It's a great visit.
They're trying to make VR a thing. And I know team members that are working there. And there's huge problems with VR. The difference between the 3-foot experience of a monitor and the 3-inch experience of VR. Yeah. In a modern first-person shooter game, you typically run at something in the neighborhood of 30 miles an hour, because running at normal human speeds is dull at the 3-foot experience. At the 3-inch experience, it's nauseating. And so it's very hard to make a good run effect in VR that doesn't upset people and doesn't bore people.
Yeah.
I don't know that VR game is going to work. That it ultimately is going to pull off.
I think you need like a dash kind of effect. One of the Mario games I think it was Legend of Zelda, had a grappling hook weapon. And where you could look at something, shoot the grappling hook, and you would just instantly go there. You would just fly quickly.
Yeah.
And if you could do that, then I think that solves the nausea and solves the speed problem, right? You just blur everything, and you just go whoosh, like that, and you're there.
But I also really like, if you're really going to take advantage of VR, so I look at a game like Assassin's Creed, the ancient Greece one, which they've now just released an educational mode on, because the world, like, the game is stunningly violent, and I get bored of slashing and killing all the time pretty quickly. Like, that's not interesting. What I got enamored with was standing near a hut in a village and watching the old woman walk out of the hut, walk down to the fishmonger, buy a fish, walk back to the hut, and cook it. Like, this is just in the game. And so now they've released an educational mode for that game where they take away the first-person shooter aspect of it and just let you be in the world. But the way I'd want to be in that world in VR is not as a standing person moving around. I'd rather be like a fairy, something small that floats behind people so you can follow stuff easily but don't have to deal with the inertia and nausea of motion, but also being able to teleport around. Like, okay, well, there's that locked door. I can go through the keyhole. right? I can go inside of these different spaces, right? Just
that's interesting. Yeah.
It goes as drone mode. Exactly. Drone mode smooths out all of those effects. But why wouldn't you take advantage of the fact that you're magical so that you can be bigger and smaller and just fly up in different spaces?
Yeah,
I love the Great Pyramid for that, right? Like, what you really want out of the Great Pyramid is not only the effort of going inside of it, but then being able to fly outside of it and see where you were when you were in the King's Chamber. Like, just do the magic motion. Why not?
Sure.
Yeah. No, I like that. When you say that, I actually think about a feature that I wrote for CodeRush that allows you to kind of move around the code quickly. It's called markers. And it allows you to basically be in a, like in your example, you're talking about virtual reality, right? Imagine going into watching the old woman cook and dropping a marker there, and then going somewhere else, and then now suddenly wanting to instantly jump back and check out that view, right? How's she doing with the fish? And then instantly jump back to that other location, right? Or say, okay, now let's pick these up, like make them stack based, and kind of like say, let's go back and retrace my steps of my important markers during the day. Right, jump back and forth, right?
Now, the problem with teleporting is that people lose their place. So is there some sense of motion that gives you a direction you're moving in to give them a cue of where we are now when we finish the movement?
I actually disagree, Richard, that's, and here's why. Because you can recognize where you are if the angle and view are the same as where you left.
Right.
So if the view is the same, now if you bring me back and you recenter my view, I'm disoriented.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing happens with code. One of the things that we built into CodeRush was that if you're dropping a marker on a at a line of code down near the bottom and you jump away, when you come back, that line of code is still going to be at the bottom. It won't be moved to the center.
Right.
Right. And the caret and the selection is all the same. So if it's the same, you're like, oh yeah, I remember. It's recognition.
You're giving him cues to know that they've teleported and where they are now.
Right, exactly. So I don't think you need here's your motion change at all. I think it's, as long as the view is restored, our minds will recognize it. Oh yeah, because think about it. When you are finding your way back after you've walked through the woods or something along those lines, right, without a trail, you are looking for recognition pieces. And when you recognize something along the way, it's instant, right? Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that tree right there. Right, or whatever it is, and it's like, so it doesn't take long to recognize. Recognition is less than like 250 milliseconds, right?
I just remember you doing beautiful motion for like swapping parameters in CodeRush, where the stages move, but it was the rate that the comma moves that it arrived right in the new location as the two parameters landed again. Like,
yeah, that was brought to you by Overkill Productions.
And it was delightful. Like, that's the thing that's wonderful about it. This is one of those subtle things. It makes you smile. It's so smooth.
No, it was. Yes, you're right. It was delightful, and it actually makes sense. It was one of those things where people were like laughing the first time they saw it. They were like, "What the heck?" Because in fact, if you give me my screen, I can show it to you here.
Certainly. 1 second here. There we go.
Let's see here. Wait, I need to get something with a lot of parameters in it. All right, let's do this. I'm going to make a copy of this function right here. And I tried it here, but it wasn't available. And I realized, because I've got a default parameter at the end here. Let's add a couple more parameters right here, like started. And let's add another one, count. And let's maybe do that right like that, right there. And so now I'm just going to come in here and let's also do a return false or true there. So now to reorder the parameters, so this is CodeRush. This is this tool that I worked on with our team with the CodeRush IDE team at Developer Express, and this is one of the features, reorder parameters. So good UI, I'll explain what goes on in the design of this feature. So we want to reorder the parameters of this, and I want it to be as fast as possible. Right, so instead of doing what everybody else does, which is let's put up a dialog that blocks the screen and lets you, click a button to move a parameter up or down, click, 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 whatever like that. It looks like this right here. And now I can just use the left and right arrows to move this around. Now, when we first wrote this, it was slow. It wasn't slow. It was instantly jumping. Boom, 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 boom. Right? And I can actually trigger what that looked like by hitting it very fast. If I hit like this 3 times fast, like that, it was very fast. But then we realized that, oh, we needed to we needed to change this. By the way, Richard, that feature you talked about is not in the ported version.
Yeah, I don't see the comma moving.
It's not in CodeRush for Roslyn. It's in the old CodeRush Classic one.
Right.
The team vetoed Overkill Productions on that particular one. And I'm like, okay, because since we're porting and we've got a lot of features we have to port, I'm okay with that.
I mean, I'll note saying I'm canceling my subscription to this product because the commas don't drift properly.
Well, fine. There you go. Send a note. Send a note.
Yeah, there you said lost sale, no drifting comments.
I'll be like, guys, you should have listened to me. Should have listened to me. That was Richard Campbell. He just left us. You can hit the tab key, right, to go to these different ones, and then you just hit enter to accept it. The animation is important. There's two things about the animation that are going on. One is that it is happening with acceleration and deceleration.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but it's happening. When these move at a constant velocity, it angers me, and probably will anger you as well, because it's instantly boring because you can predict when it's going to land.
Right.
So we have to do that. And the second piece that's going on here is it's visually telling your eyes what's the change that's occurring. Right. Because otherwise, if we instantly change the code, say we had two ints next to each other, or this int and the bool, we might not notice that they just changed places.
Oh yeah, do account 1 and account 2, and you just it's tricky without the motion.
Yeah, it required a higher cognitive load, so we fixed that. So that's kind of what's going on here. So that's.
But I mean, I've known you for the better part of 20 years, and your focus on UI is not a recent thing. Right? You worked really hard on this product for years and years and years, and it was all about the UI in a lot of respects. So it doesn't surprise me to see where you are today, Mark, just as someone with this repertoire of information on how to make better UIs.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that it's interesting that because, I've been developing for, since I was essentially 16 years old, and I'm like 54 now, so almost 4 decades, right? Yeah. 40 years. And I look back on some of the stuff I did, and I got some things right intuitively, but I also got a lot of things wrong. When I look back at some of the stuff I've done, but whenever I got things right, I was super excited. I would be excited in my present looking back, and I'd be like, "Oh, that was awesome! I got that right." Right, and I like that. But I have been hardcore studying UI, like at a level of studying the same things that you get if you get a cognitive degree in. A degree in cognitive science. I've been doing this, absorbing the same amount of material for about 14 years. So, and I feel like, I can get to a point where I'm like, yeah, this is really good. And there might be one thing wrong that I missed, like, or something like that. Like in the example today where I love that Jeff brought that up, where he said, hey, should we move those to the side? It's like, oh yeah. Well, like, okay. And so it improves it. We got a measurable improvement. It's arguably better. And we're like, okay, cool. We did that. And sometimes that still happens, but for the most part, I think we're doing a pretty good job, right? I'm able to stop problems before they get out to customers by, seeing what happens. I'm like, no, let's fix this. Let's contain this. And sometimes, there might be something, tucked away in a dialogue that customers rarely see that needs improvement, but it's just, the budget for it and the payoff aren't worth it. So we're like, okay, so not everything is perfect, but we get a lot right, I think.
Yeah, there is the Pareto's law applies here to get to at least the 80% case, because the cost of that last 20 is pretty steep.
Yeah, and I'm also going to talk about that too in the workshop. I'm going to talk about how do you decide what to fix. Right. And also the other thing, this I think is actually important. How do you convince people who are trying to stop you from fixing the UI?
Don't worry about the old features; they shipped. Good enough.
Yeah, how do you get buy-in from those folks? And I talk about that. That's a pretty I think a pretty powerful.
There's some clear ROI numbers there, right? About reducing cognitive load, increasing sales, decreasing tech support. Like all of those things to me make perfect sense. You just have to articulate those numbers to the managers.
You have to get to a point, and guess what? The rules of good design also apply to presentations. They also apply to, posters for a school play. Whatever it is you're creating, the rules apply because it's all about ease of consumption of information.
Just that reflex of looking at stuff in the grayscale. start kicking you to thinking about, is this really coherent? Is this clear? But the best thing to do is take the class, come to the show, enjoy Mark in person.
Yeah, it's all real. It's all real. It's going to happen. Hey, I just put a link out there, devexpress.com/CodeRush. If you want to learn more about CodeRush, that's the extension for Visual Studio that we make. And also, follow me here, kids, at twitch.tv/CodeRush. Oh, yeah. I'm out there live streaming, live dog fooding the CodeRush product 3 times a week. And we are actually doing some pretty cool stuff. We've made a very cool game engine for streaming. And we are creating Dungeons and Dragons special effects for die rolls and for the players. And we've got live spellcasting effects that happen over the players and around the players even. I don't know if you've seen this, Jeff, but I have special effects that travel around the live players.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
No, it's mind-blowing. When you see it, you'll be like, whoa. And also,
I got to tune in and check that. Great fanfares,
yeah, great fanfares.
Yeah, a little out of control.
Yeah, so great stuff. One of the things we do too, by the way, Jeff, that I really love is the folks that come in regularly and contribute have their own fanfares. And as you do too, right? When you come in, we've got the magic Jeff Fritz hat floating by with exploding C sharps and sparks and all kinds of things. And all Jeff has to do is just say hello in the chat room, and he takes over the stream for about 18 seconds, right? Yeah, we've got crazy stuff.
He logs back in, and he logs out, and he logs back in, and then we're cha-ching.
We have a cap on per day limits. In general. That's what we do.
15.
15, no more than 15 per day. We don't want to get crazy. Ocular Malice says zombies. I need zombies. There are zombies on my show. Ocular Malice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, Bill Simmers just hates me. He's just mad. I'm not as good enough of a coder for him. I want to be good. Bill. I want to be so good that you take me under your arm and you say, let me teach you the ways. But Bill is like, no.
So
not good enough for Bill.
You've got a session coming up at .NET Conf in about a week. Folks can watch you not
That's
just
right.
on the channel here, but you'll be on for that event, and we'll see you at TwitchCon also, right?
Yeah, I'll be at TwitchCon, not speaking, but just hanging out with my friends. By the way, Jeff, I have some killer stickers I'm going to be giving away. You're going to love them, I think, at TwitchCon. And maybe I'll bring them to, who knows, I'll bring them they're for the other show. So I've got this Dungeons and Dragons show that I'm doing as well. That's what all the special effects are for. And I've got killer stickers for that. So if anybody is a fan of Dungeons and Dragons and you're going to be at DEVintersection and watching me speak, come up afterwards. I'll probably have some stickers there. Give them to you. You'll love them, I think.
Very cool.
So, all right.
All right.
Are we done or no?
Really, as always.
Oh, just amazing. Great stuff.
Thank you. You guys make it easy.
Thanks.
That's the job. All right. We'll catch you later, Mark.
All right. See you, kids.
All right. And there we go. All right. My gosh.
Man. Yeah, he's a fire hose personality. No two ways about it.
There is so much to learn from him.
Yeah.
And
well, he works really hard. I mean, I think when you see that on his stream, all those animation things he's made, the effort is obvious, and it makes all the difference.
What's so great about how he made the animations on his stream is he spent the time teaching himself a little bit of TypeScript, a little bit of JavaScript, all the animation technologies around it, and walked through and showed that learning process on stream.
Yeah.
So.
That's right. Well, I think that's the nature of Twitch too, right? It's like the experimentation is important.
Yeah, and encouraged.
Folks can be there to actually watch as you learn and be part of that learning process. We all end up learning more together.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well,
that brings us about to the end of this week.
It's the end of it. It's It's Friday, and the nice thing about live stream, I don't have to worry about the time shifting. And block party tonight in my neighborhood.
Oh, nice. All right.
I have to run down to my local butcher who has 12 racks of pork side ribs for me.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, making
that sounds good.
Of food.
Yeah, that's
about 5 hours to smoke it all. So it'll be ready by evening, but it takes a little while to get that going. But one of my favorite things. That's what makes a Friday fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I've got some prep work for here. We've got the Rumble leading up towards .NET Conf the week after next, all virtual live here on Twitch, and TwitchCon after that. I'm teaching a workshop to folks how to build their first bot at TwitchCon.
Wow, that's gonna be a ton of fun. And next week, Devin TV or Virtual DEVintersection is Mr. Hanselman.
Yes, that will be a lot of fun. Oh
and
my gosh!
You have Ms. Carrie Payette stepping in to replace me.
Yep.
I'm going to be causing some other trouble. I don't even think I'm going to be able to tune in on that one. I'll have to watch it in post.
It's first off, you get Carrie and I together. We have a good time.
It's a thing. I've seen you too. That's definitely.
And now you're going to drop Scott Hanselman in the middle of that. It's going to be crazy. That's Thursday next week. Scott will be joining us.
Back to our regular scheduled Thursdays.
Yep.
We did Friday because of you this week, I think.
Right. So yesterday I was traveling. I was on the road teaching some folks how to stream.
Nice.
So bringing up that next generation.
Bill's asking when I'm going to start streaming. The only thing I feel like I could really stream about that would be distinctly me would be the Geek Outs.
There's something there.
Yeah, people have asked for years since we started writing them. I mean, the first ones go back to 2011. Could we see your research process? And for me, it's just something you do. I don't know why anyone would care, but like I read scientific papers and I make notes.
Yeah.
But when I watch all these streams going on, it's like, okay, you can read with me. We can argue some bits, but I do know there are moments where I find something in a paper where I sort of jump up and go, "Wow, this is a great story! Like, there's a thing here." Kind of a fanfare moment where you're like, "Oh, I've gotten a new insight about something." You sort of grapple with, like, when I wrote the script for the space-based power.
Okay,
which Geek Out from 4 years ago. I was trying to figure out how do I do the math for if we were going to put a gigawatt of solar power in space. And so I went through a bunch of NASA docs and found a breakdown of the weight and costs for one of the alpha solar array sets. So that's the 2 panels with their rotation hardware and aiming hardware and their battery packs and so forth. It's like, okay, well, we can eliminate the battery packs, which is actually the heavy part. They're all nickel metal hydride batteries, by the way. And then sort of figured out the cost of that, and then was able to extrapolate from there. And then each one of those panel pairs represents, I think, 80 kilowatts of power. So now we turn that into what does a gigawatt look like? It's okay. And using the space station panel system would cost us $1 trillion to build a gigawatt in space. That might be an obstacle. So those being able to break down into hard numbers and sort of figure things out so you get some insight of why we have or haven't done things. Like, there are reasons for things. People are generally smart, and we would have done that a long time ago. That being said, I'm pretty sure Jeff Bezos' goal with Blue Origin is to build power plants in space.
Really?
And there are ways to make it make sense, starting with manufacture your solar panels on the moon.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Well, if you look at now I go back to the NASA docs and look at the chemical compositions they found in the regolith and said, hey, the silicas, the aluminums, the titanium dioxides, the rare earth minerals, like all those things are available on the moon.
And it's as soon as you get there, it's free. You just have to get there.
You have to get there, and you have to build equipment. You have to, have to prospect. You have to mine. You have to refine. You have to manufacture. That's a lot of infrastructure to build.
But you don't have to pay for the raw material.
Yeah, well, then we get into ownership problems. Like, one would argue the Outer Space Treaty of 1966 is actually an impediment to a bunch of those things. That's another show.
That is. All right.
Well, thank you. Always a fun chat. Have Mark on board. And, here we are, another show a little bit closer to DevIn.
Yep. So next week is Mr. Hanselman. The week after that, I'll be joined by Zoiner, and we'll be. I'm going to be in San Diego. I'm going to be in his hometown, and he's in Atlanta.
That week.
That week.
Hilarious. You're in his town, and he's not there. Although you're there. TwitchCon.
I'll be there for TwitchCon. So we're going to figure out, we're going to try and broadcast from, there's a developer event that's happening that day that's organized by a couple of the community members, a couple of the other live coder folks. And
Cool.
we'll see what we can do to make something happen there. And I think it'll just be Zoiner and I chatting about artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Well, he's certainly gone all in on that, and he helped us organize all that AI content for the show. So yeah, guarantee a great conversation.
But then we'll ramp back up. I think you're back joining us then the first week of October.
Yeah, I've actually tested. Last week, you noticed the background was different and so forth. That was me building the portable rig to take with me to New Zealand. Because that first week of October, I'm going to be in New Zealand. So I initially said, okay, well, I'm just not available. But it turns out on the Thursday, which will actually be the Friday in New Zealand when we do that thing, it'll be early morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to be on the family dairy farm. So not that you're going to hear the cows or anything. The cows are further away than that. And not you're going to hear my uncle who plays the bagpipes, because he doesn't do that anywhere near us or the cows.
Or at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, it's just going to be early morning in Tauranga. And
nice.
We'll see what happens. I'm an early riser. I'm okay with that. As long as I get to bed at a reasonable hour and I'm not too hungover. Because my cousins, they like to party. And
That's good.
I'm there for about a week, and every time I get to spend a few days with them, I end up cooking the whole time. My cousin runs a series of veterinary clinics and taps me for IT and things, and her partner works the farm.
Okay.
So pretty quickly they're like, nah, we'll let you cook. You can cook for the week. So it's very enjoyable. It's a nice part of my family. I don't get to spend enough time with them, but I'm there to do some family time, and then the following week I'm at NDC Sydney, which is why I won't be that following week.
Yes.
But it happened when we went through all the numbers. It's like, I could do that. I could actually do that. And I think our guest is going to be Michelle LaRue Bustamante.
Very cool. Oh my gosh, containers.
Well, I like arguing architecture with her. She's very smart, and she's passionate about those things. But she's also, the funny thing about architects is you're usually not pushed too hard. Most of your customers are paying you a lot of money to be right.
Yeah.
It's interesting to get into that kind of debate about, well, why would we do it that way, and what do these pieces look like, and what are the failure modes like? How does this scale and resist and is resilient? And those are fun conversations.
They are. All right,
man.
I think that's a show. Thanks so much for joining us, and for you out there, we'll see you next week on Thursday. Thanks for joining us for another Dev Intersection.